Hi ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to look at how to do density. So you have a sheet that's called Density Notes. Density is a property that measures mass per unit volume. Here's the formula. Density equals mass divided by volume. If you can't remember that, which you will have to memorize, I always do it like this. D equals, and then I make a heart, and then I put a line through it. Do you see the M over the V? Should be pretty simple. You're going to have to memorize that. We're going to ask you to find the density of different objects in the lab for your project. So how do we do it? We find the mass of an object by putting it on the balance. That's all you do, is you weigh it, and then you record the mass to all the decimal places they give you. Volume can be measured in different ways though. For a rectangular solid, we'll use the formula length times width times height. For an irregular solid, we use water displacement. That means we have a known volume of water, and then we put the solid in, and then we see how high the water goes up. So let's figure out the volume of each of these. Since this is a rectangle, we do length times width times height. So that would be 5 times 5 times 5. And ladies and gentlemen, in this case, I'm going to do 5 times 5 times 5. In my calculator, I get 125 centimeters cubed. That's a big deal. On this one, it's length times width times height, 4 times 3 times 5. So 4 times 3 times 5 is 60 centimeters cubed. Right here we have these cubes, and they're all one. If we say they're all one, the length, how many cubes do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we have 7 and 8 hidden in the back. So I'm going to say this is 8 centimeters cubed, because I'm assuming they're all 1 centimeter. Okay, that's one way we can do it. Sometimes we don't have a solid that you can measure in centimeters. Sometimes we have the volume displacement. So originally it was 7.6 milliliters. Then after we put the solid in, it was 10.3. So what we would do is take 10.3 minus 7.6. And if you can't do it in your head, you just take out your calculator. Then you get 2.7. And in this case, since it's a liquid we're measuring, it's in milliliters. So sometimes volume will be in centimeters cubed, and sometimes it will be in milliliters. One of the things that's cool about density is it helps to figure out if something will sink or float. The density of an item will tell you whether it will sink or float in water. Since the density of water is 1 gram per milliliter, any substance with a density of greater than 1 will sink. For objects with densities below, they'll float. Write S or F next to each one of them if you dropped these objects in water. So since this density is greater than 1, it's going to sink. Since this density is greater than 1, it's going to sink. Since this density is less than 1, it's going to float on the top of water. Ladies and gentlemen, then we do math problems. Okay? You'll get a problem, a calculation. You need to write the variables. Then write the equation, D equals M over V. Put the numbers in the equation and treat it like a cross multiplication problem and solve. And by that I mean D equals M over V. But I'm going to say it's D over 1. So no matter what, you can figure out your answer, okay? Circle your final answer with units and proper sig figs. So let's do a couple examples, okay? Flip your paper over. I'm going to take and do number 1 with you, okay? So first I'm going to write the variables. What is the density? Okay, I don't know what that is. Of a liquid that has a mass. Mass equals 4.5 grams. And a volume equals 5.12 mLs. Cool, so now I use the equation D over 1 equals M over V. So I can just plug these things in, and I end up with D over 1, which is just D, equals 4.5 over 5.12. And I'm going to get an answer when I actually put my calculator to the test. 4.5 divided by 5.12. I get 0.88. I'm going to round to 2 decimal places because this is 2 sig figs. And it's density, so it's grams, that's what mass is, divided by milliliters. Okay, and I'm going to circle it or square it, and that's how that rolls. Let's skip one, okay, and actually, or skip a few, even though for homework you should do the other ones. Let's look at number 4. A substance with a density, so it tells you density is 0.61 grams per milliliter. Has a mass, so mass equals 34.0 grams. What is the volume? Cool. So I set up the equation, D over 1 equals M over V. So I just plug my numbers in. 0.61 over 1 equals 34 over V. Now that I have a situation like this, I'm going to cross multiply. So I get 0.61 V equals 34. Well, I need V by itself, so I divide each side by 0.61. And I get volume to equal 34 divided by 0.61. And I end up with 55.7. Okay, and that's volume. So what's our volume going to be measured in? Let's look at density. The mass part was grams. The volume is going to be milliliters in this case. And then I'm going to circle it. Your homework, ladies and gentlemen, is to finish questions 2, 3, 5, and 6 and be ready to talk density on Tuesday. Thanks!